Acts chapter 24, 1 to 27. Paul appears before Felix. As we went through in the last section, the commander, Lucius, he brought Paul up to Caesarea, where Felix, the governor, was located. We showed the picture of the villa where Paul was going to be incarcerated. It says here then in verse 1, Meta de pente imeris katevi o archiorefs Ananias meta ton presbyteron. And after 5 days there came down the chief priest Ananias with the elders, ke retoros tertilu tenos, and a rhetorician, certain Tertullus. Now, coming down, it's actually going north, where we would be going up. This, if we were saying that in directions, you'd go up. But they came down because they're coming from Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was the height in Israel. And when you left Jerusalem, you're going down. No matter which direction you're going, you're coming down. And so the chief priest that Paul knew very well and the elders all come up to Caesarea, and a rhetorician, which is basically a lawyer, number 4489. Etenes anaphanisan to hegemoni kata to Pavlu, who revealed themselves to the governor against Paul. Verse 2, Clethentus, they of two irxato categorin o Tertullus, and having been called, Tertullus himself began to charge Legon, saying, and now this would be similar to a civil lawsuit today in the United States. It wasn't really a criminal lawsuit as such, although they're trying to make it so they could get rid of Paul, but it's really not, and we'll find out this is what Felix agrees with. And Tertullus says, Legon polis irenes ting canon tes thea su. Great peace is happening through you. So he's basically buttering Felix up by saying these wonderful things about him. Reminds me of a certain head of a current country that likes people to butter him up. And I suppose a lot of people like that. When somebody's buttering you up, saying wonderful things about you, they're your friend. But if they tell you the truth or something bad, then they're not. And so right here, Tertullus is a smart person. He's going to butter Felix up, and it continues, ke katorthomaton genomenon to ethni tuto thea thesis pronias. And great feats are happening to this nation because of your forethought. Wow, what a hypocrites. These Jews hate the Romans except when they have to get something from them. Reminds me sort of today what's happening with Israel, and it's friends with people as long as they can get something from them, but if they don't, then they could be a terrible enemy. In verse 3, Pantite ke pantahu apodechometha, but totally and everywhere we receive it gladly, the things of Felix. Kratiste Felix, most excellent Felix, meta passis evharistias, with all thankfulness. In verse 4, Ina they me epi pleon se egkopto, but so that I should not hinder upon you much more, parakalo akuse se imon sin tomos tc epiekia. I appeal for you to hear us so suddenly in your clemency. So again, he's still buttering him up by intruding upon you suddenly, which is not a good thing. So excuse us, and we're for your clemency, basically not for Paul, but for them to be heard by Felix. In 2 Corinthians 10:1, it says, "But I, Paul, appeal to you through the gentleness and clemency of the Christ." So we want clemency also, Christ to give us mercy and to hear us, and so forth. In verse 5, Evrontes gar ton andra tuton limon, for having found this man mischievous. Number 3061 says in 1 Samuel 1:16, you should not grant your bondwoman for a mischievous daughter. And this was when Hannah was crying in the tabernacle with Eli, saw her. Mischievous woman, somebody that's up to no good, basically. 1 Samuel 2:12, it says, but the sons of Eli the priest were mischievous sons, not knowing the Lord. And they were pilfering from the sacrifices for themselves. Proverbs 29:8 says, mischievous men burn away a city, but the wise turn away anger. And continues, ke kinunta stasin pasitis iudeis tis kata tin ekumenin, and moving insurrection among all the Jews in the inhabitable world. Well, he wasn't moving insurrection. The Jews themselves were causing this commotion, blaming Paul for the wonderful things that Paul was teaching the inhabitable world of the Jews. So basically, the Jews it's so hypocritical here. It's just horrible to even read it, how somebody could take something so good and turn it into something so bad, but they're excellent at doing that. And continues, protostatin te tiston Nazareon eresios, and front rank of the sect of the Nazarenes. We went through the sect in Acts 15:5, Matthew 16, the whole chapter, and John 11:46, all about sectarianism. And here the Nazarenes, named after Jesus from Nazareth, not a Nazarite, but a person from a city of Nazareth. In verse 6, oske to iaron epirase vevilose, who also attempted to profane the temple, which he didn't. But again, the Jews turned something good into something bad. Onke ekratisamin, whom we also seized. Ke kata ton imeteron nomon ethalisamen krine, and according to our law, we wanted to judge. Well, there again, they're hypocritical. They didn't want to judge. They wanted to condemn him without even having a trial for and listen to what he had to say. So they're lying through their teeth to this man. He sees through them, I'm sure, as like a lot of people see through liars today. In verse 7, parelthon the lysias ohiliarchos, polis vias ek ton hieron imon. But Lysias, the commander, having come by with a great force, took him from out of our hands. Kelevsas tus categorus of two erkasthe, having bid his accusers to come. This is the commander wanted them to come. Par u venisi avtos, from of which you will be able, avtos anakrinos peri panton tuton. You will be able yourself, having question concerning all these things. Epigenone on emis categorumen of two, to realize of what we accuse him. Well, he will see this. Verse 9, Synapethento they ke iudei. And also the Jews joined in making an attack. So apparently they were in a court that many of the Jews in Caesarea came there to see what's going on and to attack Paul. Phascontes tavta utos akin, maintaining these things thus to suffice. So again, they're lying. They didn't even know what was going on, probably just like a lot of people hearsay, and a bunch of people are against somebody, so they just join in against that person for whatever reason. In verse 10, apokrithi they o Pavlos, and Paul responded, nevsantos avto to igimonos legin, of the governor having nodded to him to speak, saying, so the governor's, okay, your turn. Ekpolon eton onta se kritin to ethni tuto. For many years you, being judge to this nation, epistamenos, knowing this, ev thimoteron ta peri imav tu apologume. More cheerfully the things concerning myself I make a defense. So Paul's going to do the same thing, butter him up. Now that you know everything, then I'm cheerful that I'm in front of you, basically. And to make a defense, it's also to plead in other places. Jeremiah 12:1, it says, you are just, O Lord, that I may plead to you, or to make a defense. Luke 12:11, and whenever they should bring you unto the synagogues, and the rulers, and the authorities, be not anxious how or what you should plead, or make a defense, or what you should say. Now this was Jesus to the disciples, but I think it applies also to us today. Acts 19:33, but Alexander, having waved his hand, wanted to make a defense to the people in Ephesus in the uproar by Demetrius the silversmith. In verse 11, then amenu tsu genone oti u plius isi mi imere dakadio af is anevin pros skinison is Jerusalem. You being able to know that there were not more than 12 days to me, from of which I ascended to do obeisance into Jerusalem. And doing obeisance is bowing down to the higher authority, not playing an instrument in worship, which the King James translates it. In verse 12, Ke ute ento iaro evrome pros tina via legomenon and neither in the temple did they find me with anyone reasoning. He wasn't saying anything, just there to pay the vow for these four men. E episistasin pi unta oklu, nor are causing a conspiracy of a multitude, ute inte synagoges, neither in their synagogues, ute kata tin poli, nor in the city. He wasn't doing any of these things. Verse 13, ute parastise vinate peri on nin categorusi mu, nor are they able to render proof, concerning of which now they charge me. 14, homologo they tuto si, but I acknowledge this to you, oti kata tin odon, that according to the way, in legusin arasin, which they call a sect. So he acknowledges that according to the way which they call a sect. A way we've went through before number 3598, in Acts 18:26, John 14:4. So they call a sect, which we also mentioned before, uto latrevo to patro theo. So I serve to the paternal God. Pistevon pasitis katat ton nomon ketis prophetes gegramenis. Believing in all things according to the law. I agree, everything in the law is right. Ketis prophetes, and in the prophets having been written. Interesting, I don't see too much on any news as far as the Jews. There always seems like they're studying the Torah, the first 5 books, and the law, the Talmud. I don't ever see anything being spoken to them about the prophets, because most of the thing about the prophets is really against Israel. So I guess they wouldn't want to try to tackle that conundrum. And the prophets, we went through that, what all prophets are all about in Acts 21:10. In verse 15, continuing, Elpida ekon eston theon, having a hope in God, in ke auti uti pros dechonte anastasin melin eseste necron, which also they themselves wait for, a resurrection about to be of dead ones. Well, not the Sadducees, but the Pharisees and other people, I believe they were wanting a resurrection of the dead ones to be with God. Dikeon te ke adikon, both of just ones and unjust ones are going to rise up. The resurrection, number 386, is a physical rising up. It appears 2 times in the Old Testament, 45 times in the New. In the Old Testament, Zephaniah 3:8 says, on account of this, wait for me, says the Lord, for the day of my rising up, our resurrection, for a testimony. There is the resurrection in the Old Testament. For my judgment shall be for a gathering of nations, to take kings, to pour out upon them all of my anger. You can read more about that in Zephaniah. In verse 16, and tuto they of tos asko, and in this I discipline myself. Aproskopon, not causing anyone to stumble. In number 677, aproskopon, stumbling. 1 Corinthians 10:32 says, become not a cause for stumbling, even to Jews, and even to Greeks, and even to the assembly of God. We don't want to stumble people. And stumbling in Philippians 1:10 says that you might be honest and without cause to stumble in the day of Christ. So we don't want to stumble ourselves. And he continues, Sinidi sin ekon pros ton theon ketus anthropus diapantos, having a conscience towards God and men, continually considering other people. In verse 17, the eton they pleonon paragenomin elimosinas pison is to ethnos mu. Now he's making this defense again in front of Felix, the governor, and he says, and more after years I came offering charity to my nation and offerings, ke prosphoros. So he came to do good things. 18, in is evrome ignismenon ento eoro, in which they found me having been purified in the temple. That was his purpose. U meta oklu, not with a multitude, it didn't bring in a bunch of people. U they meta thorivu, no, with a tumult. He was calm and collected. tinas de apotis Asias Iudei, but certain Jews from Asia, basically from Ephesus. 19. Us the episu parine, who must be at hand before you. They're the ones that caused the problem. They should be before you. Ke kategorin iti akian pros me, to charge if anything they may have against me. So where are these people he's saying? E afti uti e patosan, or let these themselves speak, iti evron and me adikima, if they found anything in me for an offense. They're the ones charging him. Why aren't they here? Stantos mu epi to Sanhedrion, of my standing before the Sanhedrin. So I was before the Sanhedrin. I got hauled there. He's basically saying, Iperi mias tavtis phonis is ekraxa, other than concerning this one voice of which I cried out, estos in aftis, having stood among them, oti, that, peri Anastasios nekron ego krinome simeron ip imon, that concerning a resurrection of dead ones I am judged today by you. And this is what he was telling the Sanhedrin when his defense to them. In verse 22, acusas they tav to O Felix anavalato av tus. Now, having heard these things, Felix postponed them. Acrivesteron idos taperitis odu, having known the things concerning the way. Now, whether they're good things or bad that he's heard them. Epon, having said, Otan Lysias ohiliarchos katavi, whenever Lysias the commander should come down, the agonosome ta kathimas, I will determine the things as to you. Verse 23, the ataxamenos te to ekaton tarki tiristhe ton pavlon, and having given orders to the centurion to keep Paul, ekinte anasin ke nidena ko liin ton idion af tu ipiratin e proserkeste af to, and to let him have relaxation. Let him do what he wants, and for no one to restrain the ones of his own to assist or to come forward to him. So if anybody wants to come and help, they're more than able to do that because of Felix's giving him that freedom. Verse 24, Bata they imeros tenas, then after some days, paragenomenos o Felix, sin Drusilla ti gineki aftu, Felix having come with Drusilla, his wife, usi iudei, being Jewish, meta pempsato ton pavlon, he fetched Paul, ke ikusen aftu peritis is Christon pistios, and heard him concerning the belief in Christ. Drusilla, his wife, was Jewish. She was only 22 years old at this time and had been married twice before. And this Felix had Jonathan, the high priest, assassinated, so he was not a nice person. And Drusilla was the daughter of Herod Agrippa, a king, and she had a son with Felix, and he died in the eruption of Vesuvius, and the volcano, and possibly Drusilla, as Josephus mentions. In verse 25, the allegomenu, they aftu, peri dikiosinis, but of his reasoning concerning righteousness, ke egkratias, and self-control, K to krimatos, to melontos esesthe, and the judgment about to be, emphobos genomenos, O Felix. Felix, having become thrown into fear, apokrithi responded, tonin ekon, for now it suffices, porevu, go. Karon de metalavon, metakales ome, say. But at a time for sharing, I will call you back. In verse 26, ama de ke il pizon oti krimata, tho thisate avto ipo to Pavlu. But at the same time, he was also hoping that things shall be given to him by Paul. Basically, to be bribed by Paul. Because Paul probably had money, he sees all these people with him, and so he thinks he can get something from him. Opos lisi avton, so that he should loose him. The oke piknotaron avton metapempthon menos, also more frequently fetching him, like buttering him up to get the money. Omili avto, he consorted with him. Verse 27, the atias, they, then a space of 2 years, plerothesis, having been fulfilled, eleve theadokon, O Felix, porkion, festoon, and Felix received as a successor Porcius Festus, to replace him. Theolon te haritas katathiste tis iudeis, and wanting favors to be laid away with the Jews, Felix katelipe ton Pavlon dedamenon, Felix left Paul having been bound. Now, I don't think he was tied up. He was there. He couldn't leave, basically. So now we have another person comes into the scene, Porcius Festus, and we'll go through more about him. Chapter 25, where Paul appears before Festus.